Good day, precious viewers. Welcome to This Is Why You Are Broke, brought to you by ARM Pensions. I'm Polu Storms. I'll be your host through this fantastic show, teaching you how to stack paper for the future. It's very important. Now, to make sure you have something for the future, it's really important that you continuously fund your pension fund, okay? So today, we're going to be looking at an aspect of pensions that a lot of people don't really think about. We're going to be talking about the RSA transfer window. You see, the idea of the RSA transfer window is where you can move your pension fund administrator from one person to another. Now, the reason this window exists is because your PFAs should treat you like the most fantastic lover. They should call you all the time, send you text messages, check on you on your birthday. And if your pension fund administrator is not doing that, well, let's educate you a little bit about the RSA transfer window so maybe you can find yourself a new boo, okay? Okay, now I'm going to get someone else on the show to help give us a little bit more information about the RSA transfer window. His name is Benga Dada, and he will be shedding a bit more light on this topic. So, without further ado. Hi, Benga. Great to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's break this down into very simple English for everybody. What exactly, for clarity's sake, is an RSA transfer window?
Okay, the RSA transfer window is simply the period when people can move their retirement savings account from one pension provider to another. So similar to like football, when you say someone is moving out through a transfer window season, it's the same thing. So you can move your RSA, or you can port, like it's popularly said in the telco industry. So moving your assets from one pension provider to another.
Interesting. So I like this analogy of the football. Why is it a window? Why is there a transfer window? Why can't this happen whenever people want it to happen?
Well, okay. So historically, when the scheme kicked off, they had said that people will be allowed to transfer. But as the industry matured, they realized that there was a lot of cleanup that needed to be done in terms of ensuring that we had the right identity for people and that accounts were properly funded. Sometimes you'll find that people had dual accounts, they had two accounts, or you'll find that you had similar names. So in the process of them trying to clean up the industry, they thought that it'd be wise to stay clear for a while, ensure that the processes were in place before they go ahead. Now, what has suddenly happened 14 years after, or almost 15 years, is they have said, and the body language is that the intention is to open the window now and allow people the opportunity to move from where they are to where they want to be.
Okay, thank you for that. So now tell us, in football terms, when does this window open? When does it close? We need to know what our opportunities are. How long is that gap?
I don't like football.
We will leave football aside after this question. But when does the RSA transfer window open? When does the transfer window close?
So so our postulation is going to happen in Q4. So sometime end of this year, it's going to start.
All right. Okay.
Q4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So who oversees what happens in the transfer window? Who's the referee? Who's the regulator?
The National Pension
What is
Commission.
PENCOM's involvement in that?
Oh, well, they're going to create the platform. So the RCSA transfer platform, the integration between one PFA transiting to another, they're the ones responsible for that. They're also responsible for ensuring that people that want to leave their PFAs are not blackmailed to stay, and to ensure that there's a smooth, seamless process. So it's the National Pension Commission that's overseeing this, because we know that if people don't want you to go, they might frustrate the process. So we have the regulators overseeing the entire activities.
Okay, so then how can RSA users really take advantage of the window, the transfer window? How can they do that?
So I think when the pension industry started in 2005, the licenses were given. 2006, people started opening RSAs. At the time, it was still very new, so people just chose whichever PFA they wanted to choose because it was mandatory to open a pension account, and not because and they just went with any provider, not because they knew about who it was, but just because it was something that was mandatory for them to do. As the industry grew and people became more aware, and conscious of their pension contributions and the value add to them, they now realize that if I compare my pension account with that of another provider, what you'll find is that the other provider that is probably servicing somebody else, the money there is more. So in that sense, what that means is that two different PFAs don't function the same in terms of returns on the investment, also in terms of client service delivery to you. You find out that some people are not in certain areas, and maybe your preference is that you want them to be everywhere. There are just a few nuances that you'll find that differentiate one provider from another. So I think one is returns on investment, very important, and second is quality of service. For the contributor, he then has the opportunity now to say, okay, you know what, I've been waiting for this opportunity to move to ARM pensions, and this is the best option.
Okay, but then there's some people who, perhaps because of the nature of their jobs, they have a contributory pension type of arrangement. They don't, they joined a PFA, as you said, in the early days. So maybe they don't know what quality of service looks like. What are the things to look out for in your PFA? How do you want them to treat you? What are the key markers that the average person really should be paying attention to know that they're with somebody who really cares?
So I think one is engagement. How often does your pension provider engage you? What is he telling you about your pension account? Is he even coming back to advise you on the value in your account, and is that sufficient for retirement? Is he telling you about the options? Because beyond the mandatory contribution, there's also what you call the additional voluntary contribution. So what we find is that some people are not saving enough through the mandatory scheme alone, and nobody's telling them that at retirement, this is the extra amount that you need. So if your pension provider is not engaging you enough, I think that's something to watch out for, which is one. Two, if you're not getting the service you require, so i.e., perhaps you want to travel, you're looking for a statement, and it's just cumbersome. Do they have different touch points? Do they have an app that you can use? Do they have a USSD? Do they have phone lines? Are they in every state of the federation? If I decide that I want to work in Lagos but retire and live in Enugu, do they have an office there? I think those are the little things that people need to look out for to ensure that they're making the right choice.
That's very important, actually, because, when people are young and in their prime, they don't really think of where they may want to retire to. As you mentioned, it could be very different to where you start off working, because, the hustle of Lagos is a hustle. Not everyone can do it long term.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
So let's say, the person watching this now has paid attention. They are marking all these notes and saying, man, my PFA is not matching up. How do they give them quick notice? How do we break up with our PFA?
It's very straightforward. For the transfer process, you let the receiving PFA know that I want to transfer to you. The form will be filled and you'll be notified, and the transferring PFA, so where you're transferring from, is also notified, and he's mandated to let you go. And then the funds are transferred, the assets are transferred to the new PFA. It's very straight.
I love that. So you go to the receiving guy first, fill out a form,
Yes.
and that way the other guy you are with doesn't have choice. His new boyfriend is giving old boyfriend notice.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. It's very straightforward. If only breakups work that way. So then, what are some of the things that the PFAs do? Because earlier in the show, we talked about, your PFA should, treat you a bit like a romantic lover, boyfriend, girlfriend, send you text messages on your birthday, poems on Valentine's Day. Is this the level of, service we can expect from a responsible PFA?
So I think that is already a given. So all those text messages, for us, I think we go an extra length. So for most of the contributors that we have, or for all our contributors, you have relationship managers attached to you who would come and give you personalized service. Now, it's possible that because of the size of our clients, you may not have been reached, but an email would have been sent. Once you have a valid email, you'd have gotten an email from your relationship manager, you've gotten a text message from us or our client service team. So there's always some level of engagement, and for us, it's important that we engage our clients. We're able to give them information around what it is, because ultimately, at the end of your work life, I think your pension is something that you need to fall back upon. So it's important to us that we also give you that information around how to sustain life after work.
All right. So it sounds like this RSA transfer window is a very important thing for people to pay attention to. So as a quick summary and recap for everyone listening, can you let them know again when this window is available and what they might just want to take away from this entire conversation about the RSA transfer window?
So I think what is important is I think people should begin to pay attention to their pension. One. Two is to look at how much do I have in my account today? Is it sufficient, or will it be sufficient for me when I retire? That could be 10, 20, 30 years. This is an opportunity for you to decide, okay, I think ARM is the best play out there in terms of service, in terms of returns on investment. And this is the opportunity for you to come home, come to ARM and get the kind of service that you deserve and the kind of quality returns that is competitive in the industry. So I think it's important that people begin to pay attention to that, because everybody's going to retire someday.
Gbenga, thank you so much for your time today. I truly appreciate it. Straightforward, to the point, and very informative.
Thank you for having me.
So my financial tip of the day is don't forget that you can voluntarily contribute to your pension. You don't have to wait for your employer. You don't have to rely on just what your employer is putting in. I suggest that when you have a little bit of extra cash that you don't know what to do with, put it away for a rainy day. That's my financial tip for the day. So that's it for today's episode of This Is Why You Are Broke, brought to you by ARM Pensions. The moral of the story is you must remember that your PFA should wine and dine you. They should treat you with the ultimate respect, and they should always check on you to make sure that you have enough saved away for a rainy day. And if that isn't happening, well, you know exactly where you need to go, and never, ever, ever forget the RSA transfer window. Until next time on This Is Why You Are Broke, brought to you by ARM Pensions, I've been Folu Storms, and I will catch you on another episode. Goodbye.